For centuries, we've been told a simple story. Vikings were tall, blonde, blue-eyed, born in the frozen north, bound by blood, and united by a single, pure identity. It's the image carved into our textbooks, blasted across movie screens, and burned into our collective memory. But history is rarely that simple, because beneath the soil of Scandinavia, in signed Viking graves untouched for 1,000 years, a different story was waiting. A story not written in runes, not preserved in sagas, but hidden in the very fabric of life, DNA. And when scientists finally read it, it shattered everything we thought we knew about the Vikings. In 2020, an international team of geneticists did something historians had never been able to do before. They extracted and analyzed DNA from 442 Viking Age skeletons, taken from burial sites all across the Viking world: Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Greenland, and even further beyond. These weren't just any remains. They belonged to warriors, sailors, traders, and farmers. They were men and women buried with weapons, with jewelry, with ships, and with honor. These were the people we call Vikings. When the results came back, the researchers paused, because the DNA did not tell a story of one people. It told a story of many. The genetic markers didn't just point to Scandinavia. It pointed to ancestry from Southern Europe, from Central Asia, from the Middle East, and even from North Africa. This wasn't a fluke. It appeared again and again, across different regions, in different graves. The evidence was overwhelming. The Vikings were not a closed-off, homogeneous bloodline. They were a network, a melting pot. To understand this, we have to let go of a very modern idea that Viking was a race. It wasn't. For the people of the time, Viking was a way of life. It was a job description. It meant raider, trader, explorer, or mercenary. If you could sail through treacherous storms, if you could fight with discipline, and if you could survive the most brutal conditions on Earth, you could belong. The Viking world welcomed outsiders who proved themselves. Captured warriors could become brothers in arms. Foreign traders became settlers. Allies from other lands married in, and their children were raised as Norse. Identity was earned at sea and on the battlefield, not inherited on paper. And the DNA proves it. Vikings did not just stay in Scandinavia. They went everywhere. Their iconic longships didn't just terrorize the coasts of Western Europe. They cut deep into the rivers of Eastern Europe, reaching the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. They stood in the bustling markets of Constantinople, serving as elite bodyguards to the Byzantine emperors, the legendary Varangian Guard. They traded silver, furs, and slaves along routes that led directly into the heart of the Islamic world. In fact, more Arabic coins from this era have been found in Scandinavia than in almost any other part of Europe. Silk from the east was woven into Norse clothing. Vikings traveled as far as Baghdad, one of the most advanced and cosmopolitan cities on Earth at the time, a global center of science, trade, and culture. And when they returned home, they didn't come back alone. They brought with them new ideas, exotic goods, incredible stories, and most importantly, people. One grave in Sweden in particular stopped researchers cold. The burial was unmistakably elite. It was filled with weapons and status symbols, a warrior honored in death. But genetically, this Viking warrior carried ancestry tracing back to Central Asia. In another burial, this time in Denmark, scientists discovered DNA linked to North Africa. These were not servants or slaves buried on the margins of society. These were Vikings, laid to rest as equals, with full honors. The evidence was undeniable. The Viking world was far more multicultural, far more diverse than history had ever led us to believe. So why weren't we taught this? Why does the popular image of the pure Viking warrior persist so strongly? Because in the 19th and 20th centuries, modern Europe reshaped Viking history to serve its own needs. As nations looked for powerful origin stories, the Vikings were recast as symbols of pure Aryan or Nordic ancestry, used to support dangerous and false racial myths. Their complexity was stripped away. Their global connections were ignored. Anything that challenged this narrow, simplistic image was quietly pushed aside, left out of the history books. But bones don't lie, and DNA doesn't care about ideology. The past is now speaking, and is speaking loudly. The real legacy of the Vikings isn't about racial purity, it's about movement. It's about connection. It's about adaptation. They were builders of bridges between worlds, connecting Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and Europe in a way that feels surprisingly modern. They remind us that the ancient world was not isolated. It was interconnected, dynamic, and diverse. And that strength has never belonged to one face, one color, or one origin. The Vikings were never just who we imagined them to be. They were bigger, broader, more human. In history, when we finally let it speak, its full truth is always more powerful than the myth. Thanks for watching. Follow for more stories that history forgot to tell you.